So you think you're cool enough to start film photography? Well, obviously, you're going to need a camera, and any will do. Point and shoot, 35mm or even medium format. We'll leave the large formats to the big time artsy-fartsy professionals. And if you're really new to photography and don't have a clue about settings, what on earth is aperture? I would look at getting a point and shoot. Easy to use, no settings, and usually the same size as your iPhone. The only thing you have control over is what you photograph and whether you turn the flash on. For those of you that want a challenge, the 35mm. They're usually a bit bigger than a point and shoot, can change the lenses. They have manual setting control, and usually has an inbuilt light meter to tell you what settings to use. The medium format, basically a big 35mm film camera. It's bigger, heavier, and usually has better quality images as the frames are bigger. Less images per roll, but much better quality. I've got this camera. Is it any good? When you're starting out, it really doesn't matter what camera you have. A camera is a camera, and as long as it's taking beautiful film images, then it's taking beautiful film images. It really does not matter what brand it is, when it was released, or even the pricing. Especially in this film camera market, either everybody has a great idea on how much everything costs, or not a clue whatsoever. So gauging whether your camera is good or not down to the camera's price is really difficult to do. Your best bet is just to try and find a film camera that works. Check your local charity shop, check your local car boot sale, and even in your grand's attic. There's got to be a camera up here somewhere. And once you get your hands on a camera, you're going to need a film stock. This is where personal preference is key, and these are the first 3 questions that you should be asking yourself. How much do I want to spend on the film? What colours do I want from the film? And how much grain do I want? For me, I want my film to be relatively cheap. I want my film stocks to be warm, and I don't really want to be spending too much money. Kodak Gold 200 and Kodak Color Plus are my go-tos, and it's something that I would recommend for most beginner film photographers. But when you're buying film, you will see a number next to the film stock, and these will be either relation to the size of the film or the ISO of the film. So Kodak Gold 200 is ISO 200. Portra 800 is ISO 800, and you can buy them in 35mm formats or 120. That is for your 35mm and your medium format cameras, and that's what we're going to be focusing on throughout this video. As a general rule of thumb, I will aim for ISO 200 and lower for outdoor photography on bright sunny days, ISOs of 400 for gloomier days where it's quite a bit of an overcast, and ISOs of 800 if I'm shooting in indoor settings. Aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. They all control the amount of light into the camera with varying degrees. Aperture, the lower the number, the more light, the shallower the depth of field. Shutter speed, the bigger the number over 1, the less amount of light. It freezes the image the bigger the number. ISO, the bigger the number, the more sensitive the film is to light. The bigger the number usually means more grain. If you've decided on getting a manual camera, that's absolutely great, and you'll find there's something called a meter. Most cameras will have internal camera meters, and what does that do? It will tell you the settings that the camera thinks that you should be using to get a balanced image. This will keep the highlights and the shadows at a relatively balanced level, but sometimes you don't really want that, and you want more of a creative look, or you want some more light in the highlights or deep shadows, and this is where an external meter will come in. The external meter will allow you to read the scene and read each individual points of the image that you're wanting to photograph, so that you can apply the look that you want, because you can't check on the back of the camera to make sure that the images are coming out correct. So you have to trust your meters. Even if the internal meter on your manual camera is correct and it works fine, I would always recommend getting a backup. Well, this is not sponsored, but I use the one on my iPhone. It's called Light Meter, and it works a charm, and it only cost me a tenner. So what it does is that I will point my phone like any other light meter at something, and I'll see it through the camera, and I can pinpoint on certain points of the image that I either want exposure correct for that area or that area, and usually I want to meter more for the shadows. That's just a personal preference of mine. But with a internal meter on a camera, it will give you a broad reading. You can still do that on these light meters, but if you're wanting specific scenes, that's where an external one will be very, very handy. And when you are metering, this is a mistake that I made a lot when starting out, that film actually holds more information in the highlights than it does in the shadows, whereas in digital work, it will hold more information in the shadows than what it would in the highlights. So when you're metering the images, it doesn't matter necessarily if you overexpose by 1 or maybe 2 stops, but if you underexpose by 1 or 2 stops, you're going to see a massive difference. The images look really quite muddy. The film stocks do so much better if you just throw light at it, so don't worry if you're exposing by a stop or 2. And my final and arguably my most important point is to have fun. Every time you go out, you should be having so much fun and so much joy over what you're making. Don't place any expectation on what you're going to make or how you're going to make it, and enjoy the process. When you're starting a new creative journey, you'll find actually the imperfections is what makes the art so much fun. And if you've enjoyed this video and any of the tips that I've given, subscribe down below would be greatly appreciated. It's only one click of a button and it's free. Like the video too whilst you're there. I do have an Instagram, and that is at Grenney Creates. It's the same as the YouTube handle, and I would greatly appreciate it if you looked over it and found me on there too. And finally, I do have a code with Dehancer, and it's code Grenney in all capitals to save yourself 10% off on your purchases over there. So thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed making it, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.